Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about the rise of the second party system after the death of the first party system. Now, as you'll remember, the first party system consisted of the Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton on one side, and the Democratic Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, on the other. Now, I know some of you have got this kind of confused, but the Democratic Republicans, also known just as the Republicans, were nothing have nothing to do at all with the Republicans that we know of today. The Republicans that we know of today, that party was created in 1854, right before the beginnings of the Civil War. So just wanted to clear that up in case anybody was still confused about that. Now, as we've talked about, the Federalist Party pretty much dies out after the end of the War of 1812 and the Federalists at the Hartford Convention. This pretty much discredits the Federalist Party and it leaves the Democratic Republicans pretty much to go unchallenged in national politics. Now, because of this, the Democratic Republicans become what we call National Republicans. This party is led by John Quincy Adams, Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, and a few others. However, by the election of 1824, with Andrew Jackson's loss to John Quincy Adams, Jackson splinters off from the National Republicans and creates his own party known as the Democrats or the Jacksonian Democrats. This Democratic Party is the party that we know today as the Democrats. However, their platforms have shifted in the several hundred years since the creation of the Democratic Party. So, while the names are still the same and their origins are the same, the Democratic Party has shifted its platform. So don't don't confuse the fact that the Democratic Party, while it existed in this time period, is not the same thing that we think of today. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Now, for all intents and purposes, the Democrats, led by Andrew Jackson, pretty much took over the beliefs that Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans had. Not precisely the same, but they believed in small government, they believed in states' rights, they believed in farming and agrarian economy over manufacturing. They believed that you should have a strict interpretation of the Constitution. Now, as we see, Jackson ends up winning the election of 1828, and again, he wins the election of 1832, so he serves 2 terms. However, during these 2 terms, as you guys have seen in the readings and in my PowerPoints, Andrew Jackson manages to create a lot of enemies. This leads to the rise of the so-called Whig Party. Now, the Whigs and the Democrats make up the second party system that we are going to talk about for a while in this class. The Whig Party was a diverse group of people, all united by their hatred of Andrew Jackson and his policies, specifically the Bank War. This anti-Jackson coalition called themselves the Whigs, a name that linked them to the patriots of the American Revolution, while Andrew Jackson pretty much said that they were indistinguishable from the previous Federalist Party. Now, while Andrew Jackson's criticism may be a little thrown out there, the Whigs did, however, adopt a lot of the Federalist beliefs. The Whigs overall believed in internal improvements, that is, using federal money to fund the building of roads, canals, bridges, and other things. They wanted to support a national bank. They wanted to promote manufacturing. In a sense, they wanted to do much of the same things that Alexander Hamilton pushed for in the 1790s. For the next 20 years, from about 1828 until about 1854, the Whigs and the Democrats would be the 2 major parties. However, there will be several third parties that we'll talk about during this time period, namely the Anti-Masonic Party, the Liberty Party, and the Free Soil Party. While these third parties are somewhat important, the Whigs and the Democrats are the 2 major parties on the national stage. The Whigs are led mostly by Henry Clay, who most of all disliked Jackson for Jackson's beliefs in destroying the Bank of the United States, which Henry Clay 100% believed in. Other Whigs would include Daniel Webster, the senator from Massachusetts, who debated in the nullification crisis against Robert Hayne. The Whig Party also included other members, later on of which would be Abraham Lincoln, who was at first a Whig before he became a Republican. This is before, of course, the Republican Party has even been created. So, got that. Lincoln was a Whig until the Republican Party was created, and then he joined the Republicans. But yes, Lincoln was at first a Whig. The Whig Party also believed heavily in the use of tariffs. They also believed in humanitarian reforms like prison reform, temperance, reform of asylums and mental hospitals, and those kind of things. On the flip side, the Democrats, especially Jackson, preached the rule of the people. Namely, Jackson wanted a more direct democracy that involved all the people, whereas the Whigs still had this sort of federalist idea that the people overall, the average ordinary American citizen, was not to be trusted with politics. This again shows the direct connection from the Federalists to the Whigs and the Democratic Republicans to the Democrats. Now, as you will see here, this is a very, very, very important thing to note. Almost all political parties since the 1790s, all political parties draw their beliefs mostly from either Alexander Hamilton or Thomas Jefferson. As we see, Thomas Jefferson led the Democratic Republicans, whereas Alexander Hamilton led the Federalists. Hamilton's beliefs were pretty much handed down to the Whigs. Now again, the Whig platform did not line up 100% with that of Alexander Hamilton, but most of the things that Alexander Hamilton believed in, the Whigs did as well. Now, the same thing applies for the Democratic Party in terms of their beliefs coinciding with that of Thomas Jefferson. Not all of Jefferson's beliefs were adopted by the Democrats, but more or less they believed and stood with Jefferson's beliefs, although Jefferson by this point has been dead for a couple of years. We'll come back to this later when we talk about the third party system, and we'll talk about how those beliefs, again, that Jefferson and Hamilton's beliefs were handed down in the third party system as well. Again, thanks you guys for watching these videos. I hope you guys learned something about the second party system. If you want to learn more about the differences between the Whigs and Democrats, see my PowerPoints or see the no, I guess those two things are pretty much it. Well, anyway, have a good rest of your day, and thanks for watching. Bye.